Most of us are recycling the same thoughts that we had last year, the year before, our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors. Most of us are recycling those thoughts. So most of us aren't even thinking.
Feel my words. Feel my words. Not just here, I want people to feel my words. Like a refreshing summer rainfall, like a hug from my grandma paired with a $5 bill. So I decided to do something new. That's right. Right now at this very moment, I'm creating a poetry album. With the assistance of Creative Space Station, I am melodically releasing my vibration into an industry made for music, but not limited to. And you can too.
All right, so you say you should do the branding first. I don't think I branded first.
So are we this interview?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we talk
It's
about
like, are we started?
Yeah. So when we talk about branding and people branding first,
Right.
like it's when you are intentional about what you're actually doing.
Okay.
Some of us just do the thing that we're doing,
Right.
and then we brand ourselves, or the brand is already out there and we just need to refine it.
Okay.
Right? So when you are promising someone something that is a done for you and the brand isn't there yet, then you have a problem.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
And what's that problem though? And how is it fixed?
Well, the problem is that we don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, that's even worse, right?
Right.
Because there are people who are out there who are doing things because it's what the industry dictates or it's what they think they're supposed to be doing, instead of coming from a place of authenticity, right? Or creativity. And that's how we fix it, right? We get them to back to who they are and why they're doing what they do. And then we get into what the brand actually is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that plays right into what I normally ask in the beginning anyway.
Okay, good.
You said, people don't know who they are. So who do you think you are?
I knew you were going to ask me that question because I was like, oh, that's the name of the podcast.
That's the name of the podcast, yes.
So I would say no one and everything, right? And it's because the work that I do is rooted in spirituality.
Right.
And I realized that, without tapping into my higher self, or what people might say God or the universe,
Right.
that I am nothing. But when I think about what I really am, is if I'm made in the image and likeness of my creator, then I'm all that too.
Right.
Right?
I've never heard someone say nothing and everything at the same time.
Yeah.
I always ponder on people's answers because I'm always wondering who people think they are. Because we all have these sometimes outlandish things that we think we are.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and you've worked with a lot of people I know that have a lower understanding of who they think they are.
Yeah.
Or misguided understanding of who they think they are.
Yeah. I think a lot of us do.
Yeah.
Because of the world that we live in. And what I've realized, what one of my trainers or mentors told me was that, as a transformational trainer, it is your responsibility to bridge together the paradox that is life.
Right.
Right? So if I say I'm nothing and everything, I'm bridging together that paradox for people.
Gotcha.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you get into, because that's a very segmented part of branding. It's not like you're just like, hey, I'm going to teach you branding and, we got your website and we got social media and we have, XYZ, da, da, da. You're like, no, I want to really bridge these two opposites.
Right.
And really work on, I know we were talking before, working on the inner parts of the entrepreneur. And normally when you think about branding, at least from a broad perspective, it's what people see on the outside.
Right? It's all about aesthetics. Well, because I had the journey myself. So when I first started I've always read self-development books. I don't know if you're a self-development junkie.
I am.
So I am.
I
and I had
this ET for 2 hours of the night.
Right. And I had this woman, she came to my house and she was like, oh, we can tell what kind of person Mia is. And I got so paranoid by what she said because I'm like, oh, does everybody have their shit figured out?
Right.
Because I don't. Right? And so I would always read these self-development books, but then I went to a Tony Robbins event, which is called UPW.
Yep.
Walked on the hot coals, all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, it was good. So anyway, in this, it was 2010 or 2009. And while you're there, he has you actually imagine, like, if your life could be anything, like, what would you have your life be?
Right.
I've never really thought about that, right? I've been doing more of the reactionary kind of stuff, right? Oh, go to school, get a job with some benefits, get married, have kids, that kind of thing, right? So when I had the question, like, oh, wait a minute, I can do my own life the way I want to do it and make it look the way I want it to look.
Right.
It made me interested in it. And so I started looking up what kind of jobs would do the things that I was thinking about doing. And image consulting came up. So image consulting is how I got into it and how I started.
Okay.
But what I realized is that, which is the aesthetic part of the branding mostly. But what I realized is that a lot of people, they have internal issues, not just the external stuff that needs to be fixed. And there's no fixing you because there's nothing wrong with you, kind of thing, right? Another paradox. But what I realize is that I'm even more satisfied by doing the inner work with myself and with other people, because that's where the real transformation comes. It doesn't happen with the clothes,
right,
or the hair or the makeup.
And so many people, and it's crazy to say that, because so many people think it does. And so I'm sitting here like, I don't think that, but then again, I kind of do in a way, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know for Inkspired, like, I tell people when they ask me, like, why do you want people to dress up? I'm like, because when you look good, you feel good, right? But that's really just a covering in some instances.
It can be, right? It can help you feel better, right? Because there's a psychology of clothing as well, right? Colors and all this kind of stuff. So it can. But what I found is, like, if you want lasting, it has to come from within.
Right. The clothes are the Band-Aid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or they can be the thing that expresses who you are. But you got to know which one you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Is it a Band-Aid or is it an expression?
So Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
We went to a Tony Robbins conference, which I've never been to before. I've watched a nice bit of Tony Robbins stuff. And so, all right, so where's because I heard about this whole hot cold thing.
Where is it in the seminar?
Well, what does that come from? Like, why does he have you walk on hot coals? And then what came from that? Was it just, oh, my feet are hot now? Or was there actually something that happened?
So he doesn't do anything without intention, right?
Right.
And so the whole purpose of walking across hot coals, the whole purpose of doing things outside of the box is so that you can remind yourself that you can do anything, right? So the hot coals, it happens on the first night, and you get, so it's intense.
I'm sure.
The whole weekend is intense. So it's 4 days, and Tony is on stage for 2 of the 4 days.
Okay.
And on the first day, he's talking to you about possibility. He's talking to you about what your life could look like. And he gets you into this state of believability. Like, he works you up to this state of believability that you know you can walk across these hot coals and not feel it.
Wow.
So some people opt in,
right,
and some people don't do it.
I would have been a non-opter.
Right? Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So and I'm
okay.
want to hear the rest of the story, because I'm like, why did you opt in?
Oh, because, I mean, why go and not do the thing? But I'm also a person who jumped out of a plane. So, you know, that's...
Okay, Will Smith.
Right. So, but when I think about things, I was doing this, I've done some modeling, like, back in the day, but I did this runway show with my colleagues at a colleague conference. And so I was super nervous about going out and walking in front of my colleagues.
Right.
And as I was standing in line waiting for my turn, I was like, bitch, you jumped out of a plane. Like, you could totally do this runway. This is easy.
Right.
Right? You're not going to die walking down this runway.
Right.
So I use those things as reference points to remind me, like, you can do this. Right? You can do this. Whatever it is that I'm afraid to do is
Right.
like, oh, you can do this. You did X, Y, Z.
Right. So had you jumped out of the plane before you went to the Tony Robbins?
No, the plane was 3 or 4 years ago, and I did it with someone else as their challenge. So I was like, oh, no, you going first. And when that door opened, I was like, oh, shit, am I really going to do this?
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was your reference point when you got to Tony Robbins and it was like, okay, here's the hot coals? What was your reference point for something that you had done before then?
Oh, that's good.
For you, yes.
I don't know that I had anything.
Wow. So what made you say, you know what?
I'm a country girl. Like, I climbed trees. I played with boys. Like, I was a tomboy, you
Right.
know. My cousin said it's because my feet are already bad. So she's like, you're not going to feel any of that. But the point is like, it's about you transcending the physical,
Right.
right? It's about transcending the physical. So you actually don't feel it. Now, were there some people who got their feet burned?
Yeah, of course.
Because they were thinking about getting their feet burned. So that's the whole thing. It's like, it's more about the mindset than
Right.
it is about the physical act.
Come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. I don't mean to be rude. Yeah. I'm just a little different from all these dudes. Okay. They riding waves, me, I'm up on a cruise. Yeah. You feel like me, then you got nothing to prove. I see him trying to do what I do. Yeah. Even McDowell couldn't move like a move. Yeah. You think you're how it look, I'm up on the moon. Yeah. Got fresh to death and it came out of the tomb. That's cause I got a different type of gratitude. Don't be sour, got my power from the Beatitudes. And we did it the long way, check out the latitude. I'm unapologetically fly, no wonder why, that's just my attitude. Yeah, that's right, yeah, that's just my attitude. Ooh, yeah, I don't blame you, if I was you, I'd probably be getting mad too. Yeah, I know now that there ain't no better dude. That's just my attitude. Okay, that's just.
And so when you went across, what was going through your mind? Because I'm assuming you didn't wind up feeling it to the
Right.
extent that.
I didn't.
All right. So what's going through your mind as you're walking across blazing hot coals?
Right, I'm trying to think about what I was thinking about. I can tell you more about what I was thinking about after I jumped out the plane because it was, it was more
Visceral,
recent.
yeah,
But it was
crazy
more
too.
recent. But the hot cold situation, it was like, I just knew I was gonna do it, and I knew I wasn't gonna go to the hospital, and I knew that if I didn't do it, whatever I wanted on the other side of that whole weekend wasn't
Right.
gonna happen for me,
Wow.
which is why I did it. But I don't remember what was going through my head as I walked across the cold. I don't.
That's crazy. I wouldn't have done it. And now I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like, okay, if I'm there, right? And even if I have that thought, like, whatever I need to get from this weekend, I might not get if I don't do this because he's
Right.
doing it on purpose in the beginning of the weekend. I'm like, I probably would have still opted because my carnal brain would have been like, nah, bro, you're not walking across no hot coals.
Well, let me ask you this. Well, first of all, like, you don't know, like, what would have happened for you before the
Right.
challenge came
Yeah.
in the conference, right? The other thing is, like, why would you be risk adverse?
I'm almost always risk adverse, except for when I know that there's something that's in front of me where I know for sure it can make an impact. Like I'm very, like if I sit down at a poker table, we talked about poker
Yeah.
before. If I sit down at a poker table, I know I can make money. Now, I may not make money that particular time out, but I know like I'm confident in this. Even with my shows and stuff, I know what type of impact that makes. And I knew going in what type of impact my stuff had made prior to just from me posting on Facebook years ago.
Right.
So that type of stuff, I'm like, oh, those are risks. I could possibly lose money, time, et cetera, but I'm confident in those. So anything else outside of my normal box, which isn't necessarily a normal box either.
Right.
I'm like, eh.
Yeah, but I mean, don't you feel like for me, I feel like that's where the juice of life is, in that stuff that I'm afraid to do, right? I could say too, like, yes, I can go sit at a poker table and probably make some money.
Right.
But is that really risk?
No, not at a certain
It's
point.
more calculated, right? It's more of a calculated risk than it is risk. And yeah, jumping out of a plane is risky as hell.
That's risky.
But I also knew that the person who I was jumping with knew what he was doing, right? So it wasn't like I jumped out of a plane alone. I did it in tandem with, with a skydiver or whoever.
So I was supposed to have done that. I remember I was 20-something, early 20s, and I'm like, I'm gonna jump out of a plane. So a couple years went by, and I had a couple of people that I knew that jumped out. They did the video, they showed me and everything, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Had people that told me, look, if you go, I'll go. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna do this before I turn 30, right? I got to about 27, 28, hadn't did it yet. And so then I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it by 30 or I'm never gonna do it. Got to 30, and I'm like, okay, am I gonna go jump out of a plane this year? And all I could think of in my mind was like, if I go jump out of a plane, because I already feel like we're not supposed to be in the air anyway. Like I get on the airplane, I look out, and I'm like, this is amazing, but I literally can't see the ground. It's just nothing but clouds around you, and I'm like, we're not supposed to be up here.
Ooh, I definitely want to talk about that.
And so I told myself, if I go jump out of a plane, and the person, the trainer or whatever, it goes to pull on the thing, and it's not opening, all I'm gonna be thinking on the way down is like, yo, you're dumb. You knew you were not supposed to jump out of a plane, and you jumped out of a plane, and now you're gonna die, and you deserve to die. And so here I am, 8 years later after that point, and I'm just like, yeah, it's past for me. I'm not jumping out of a plane.
Well, I mean, maybe you could do something else that's adventurous. But if you don't have an adventurous spirit, then, I mean,
Yeah, I don't really have an adventurous spirit. At least not out in like the real world. In my mind, I do a lot of stuff.
Well, and going back to the whole airplane thing, like we're not supposed to be flying.
We're not
like,
supposed to be up here.
What is that about?
It's just weird to me. Like so I don't like bridges, and I think it's because I don't understand like how they can make this thing, and it goes down into the water. You can't see it. Like even tunnels, you go in through tunnels, and they've carved out. And I'm like, I don't understand this. So I'm good.
I got a thing with tunnels too, but it's more of a like claustrophobic kind of thing. I'm afraid that there's going to be a crack that happens, and then the water's going to like come through. But the reason why I'm asking you about it is because I think about like what I said like earlier about if we're made in the image of a creator, and like all of the things that we get to see and experience in life, like even plants and weather and things like that.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't we be able to fly? Like, why wouldn't we be able to build bridges? Why wouldn't we be able to have, go into space?
Yeah.
Because if we're tapping into that,
True.
we're tapping into that creativity, which is what you do when it comes to poetry and things like that.
Right.
Why wouldn't that expand to the rest of what you're doing? Or how you're living, or for other people too.
And I feel like it should. It just doesn't for me.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm still, I guess I haven't gotten to a certain place mentally where I feel like I can do anything, or I should be able to do anything, or get past any type of fear. I'm very narrow in the things that I do. And people are like, oh, well, it seems like everything you do, you put your hand to, like it does well. I'm like, because I don't do a lot of stuff. I stay in my lane.
Which is not a bad thing, right? Because you found your zone of genius, and now you're just like going really deep in it, and which I tell my clients to do too, right? But I mean, jumping out of a plane, or even appreciating the fact that somebody actually invented a plane for me to jump out of, or being able to fly, because that's literally flying.
That's crazy.
It's literally like flying and not in a plane. I was literally flying after I got over the fact that it was freezing and that my face was like doing this, right? The whole point is like, oh, I get to fly like a bird too.
Right.
And what was present for me, or what's present for me now, is like, that doesn't have anything to do with my work, right? that has more of me being more of me.
Got you. So when so you jump out the plane. Of course, you know, thoughts of exhilaration and it's cold.
Oh no, that didn't happen first.
No?
At first it was, oh shit, because the guy said, so you're literally sitting in someone's lap,
Okay.
right, waiting to push off, and then they're giving you directions in your ear as you're looking down at the ground, like you're 10,000 feet up.
Right.
So he says, tuck your legs behind you, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, what? Like, why didn't y'all tell us this down at the bottom?
Right.
Not that I was going to remember anyway. Right. So he's like, we're going to go on 3. We're going to push off on 3. We push off on 1, right? Because I guess he was like, I'm not going to give her a chance to do whatever, or to chicken out, because I was like, am I really going to do this? And my friend had already gone, who was like, I want to do this, and I know that I know you'll do it with me, and I know that you're going to show up, so I couldn't not do it, right? So we jump, and I'm like, oh shit, he didn't wait for 3. Like, all of this is going in my head, and I was like, and it's cold up here, and why is my face like doing this, right? And in an instant, I was like, bitch, you're flying. Enjoy this moment. Like, get present to what's happening.
Right.
Because what I realized was like, it's gonna be over before you know it. And if you don't start to enjoy that you're flying, and it was in Greensboro, so I'm looking for like, what am I looking? And it's an empty field, so wasn't really a whole lot to look at, but just the thought of, oh, I'm actually flying. And then what was really cool is that when we started to land, he's like, put your feet, like let your legs down, we're gonna walk it down. We actually didn't fall because he was, for whatever reason, he was taller, and he started walking, and we just walked as we landed, which was super cool.
Wow.
Right? So I would have never been able to experience any of that if I was still in this, oh my God, it's cold. Oh my God, it's this. Oh my God, it's that. And oh, I should have gotten the camera where you take the pictures, the whole, like, I was like, nope, get present. Let's have some fun. Let's do what you came here to do.
Wow. What got you to the point where you could even understand that you needed to be present in that moment? Because that doesn't just happen with you saying out of the blue. Like, you have to have either gone through some things or learned some things or something for you to then automatically just snap into, be present.
Yeah, a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of, even with the image consulting work, but the transformational work that I've done, like getting present to life. Right? Most people aren't present to life. We're just kind of like going through the motions.
Right.
We're going to this job to pay some bills, to go buy some crap that we don't even enjoy. And that's really most people's cycle, right? They can't wait for Friday to get here, and they dread Sunday night because they know that on Monday they got to go back to this job that they hate. And like just really being present to what I'm feeling or what's going on in my life and how I want to present, I think has helped tremendously, but it has come with a lot of work and a lot of pain. Like, it's the pain that got me to do the work, right? But now that I've done the work, there's still pain, but I can get out of it a whole lot faster. And I also am very conscious of the work that I want to do, how I want to be in the world, who I want to help, and like how I want to show up and how I want to use the gifts that I've been given.
Right.
Most people don't even think about that stuff.
This is true. They got, like you said, jobs and so many other things just in general, kids, life that happens that they don't think about their gifts.
Right.
A lot of people don't know what their gifts are because they don't even have time to figure those things out.
Absolutely. And I'm not, I'm definitely not glazing over the fact that I get to do that. Right? Because it is a privilege to be able to have done that.
Right.
Most people are just trying to survive. Right? But what if we, like, for me, it's about creating a world where people don't have to think about survival. Like, as humans, we've evolved so much from that survival mode stuff, but we're still in it. Right? We don't have to worry about, well, sometimes you have to worry about a bear chasing you, but for the most part.
The Revenant.
Right. For the most part, we don't. And we're still stuck in survival mode because, well, society set it up that way, but we're not going to get into all of that, right? But for me, it's like taking the time to get present to like what you want. And I think, you know, back to Tony, if I hadn't gone to that and he hadn't presence for me, like you really could have what you want.
Right.
I might still be going to a job too.
That's crazy. And even like just thinking about making that investment to go to a Tony Robbins conference, and I don't remember exactly how much it was, but I know it's not the
It's not cheap.
meal. Yeah, it's not
It's not
$100.
cheap. No, it was. I don't even remember what I paid.
Right.
So I have a cousin who loves self-development just as much as I do. So I was like, I'm going.
Right.
It's in Orlando. I already got the room.
Okay.
Here's my ticket. Go get your ticket. So she actually upgraded our tickets to like we got to sit in the front section. I didn't want to be too close to him because I tell you what he did at the thing, and I was just like, oh Lord.
Yeah, he's always getting people.
Ooh, but anyway, it was powerful what he did. So she ended up coming with me.
Right.
And like we had the best time. And I mean, yeah, you got to invest in yourself.
Right.
Right. But they won't go to UPW, but they'll buy a $1,000 phone.
Right. But it's okay because we make payments on it every month. You're not spending $1,000 at one time.
Put it on a credit card.
I don't have any credit cards.
Well, then go borrow it from someone
Right.
and then pay them back monthly, right?
Right.
It's are you going to do something that could possibly change the trajectory of your life? Why would you not do that?
Yeah.
An iPhone is not going to do that.
Why don't people value those moments?
Maybe because they haven't been exposed to them. And I think the other is that they just, I think a lot of people don't want to get down to the nitty gritty.
Nitty gritty, yeah.
You know, I think people really don't want to know who they are. They rather stay stuck in what they're in, so they don't have to take responsibility for what they want. Because now I can blame circumstances, I can blame the president, I can blame the past president, I can blame whomever,
Right.
my husband, my non-husband, my baby daddy, whoever.
Right.
And if I do that, then I'm good, right? Or I say to myself, I'm good. So the ultimate self-responsibility is saying, no, I'm not good. I don't like where this is going. And I know I'm the only one that's responsible for where I am and the only one that's going to get me out of it.
So I'm, because I'm asking why don't people
Yeah.
recognize that, right? And so I'm like, okay, even in this conversation, even though I recognize that in certain instances of my life, like I'm not recognizing it now. So like I'm forever, unless I decide to go do it, gonna be like, I probably need to go to a Tony Robbins conference and I need to walk on hot coals, right?
Yeah.
Because like what's on the other side of that for me that I haven't even tapped into or may never tap into if I don't do that or if I don't go jump out of a plane like I said I was gonna do. But then even in that, I'm like, probably not gonna
Still won't do it, right?
Right.
And this is not an endorsement for Tony Robbins because he has some of his own issues, as we all do.
All do,
Like,
yeah.
I want to, because I know there's some people out there saying, oh, Tony's a problem for women and he's this and he's that. But my point is, like, we're all human, number one.
Right.
So we all get to make mistakes. It's about the correction, right?
Yeah.
It's about the correction. And for you, like, I'm going to challenge you to do one of these things. I'm going to say, hey, did you sign up yet?
Right.
Did you do that yet?
Yeah.
Because there's so much more on the other side of it. And if you like, one of my very recent clients actually participated in one online.
Okay. See, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, he participated in one online, so they didn't do the
No
hot
coals.
But what he said, like, the work that we're doing is around authenticity because of that.
Yeah.
Because of that event, right?
Right.
Because he's like, I know that I'm not, and he's extremely successful. He's like, I know I'm not living authentically because I had this that I didn't want to share with people, and now I know that I got to tell my story, I got to tell my truth, and that's going to set me free.
Right.
And so now he's like, I'm doing all the work.
And see, me, I just want to be like, ooh, I know some people that need to go. But it's like
We all want to think that,
it.
yeah,
Right.
we all want to say that we don't need it.
Yeah.
Because then we're weak. Because my brother says to me, oh, I'm going to let you and my cousin, I'm going to let you and my cousin go. And y'all tell me what y'all learned. And while we were there were some people who had the 4th, 5th, 6th time, and you can volunteer as a worker if you've been before.
Okay.
And so I was like, why in the hell would you come 6 and 7 times, right?
So they get more and more.
But
and
there's
more.
another level. Just like you're conscious of certain things, right? There's always a next level for all of us.
Right.
And we can't get to it if we don't even take the leap to get from one to the next one, right? And admitting that we need to do some work.
Yeah.
Because we all need work. I don't care who you are. Tony Robbins needs work.
Right.
Right? Oprah needs work.
Oprah. So you flew.
To Orlando?
No. You were flying.
Yes, I was flying.
Right, you flew.
I flew.
You were present in flying. Mm-hmm. You land, and you don't even fall.
Don't even fall. Walk it out.
You land on your feet.
Like a real walk it out.
Right.
Right?
After that, like immediately after that, like let's say within the next 3 months,
mm-hmm.
what changes happened either outwardly, inwardly? You can even stretch it out to a year if you need to.
Well, so this challenge for my friend was part of something else that we were doing.
Okay.
So I was doing something that was probably a bigger extension of the Tony Robbins weekend.
Gotcha.
It was the combination of 5 weekends over a 3-month period.
Oh, wow.
With lots and lots and lots of challenges in it. And this was not one of them. This was something that she decided to do for
Just on a
herself.
whim.
So it was in conjunction with that work that I would say ultimately made me leave my job. A 22-year career in government to say I'm going to do this full time.
Wow.
So that...
Because you could fly.
Because I could fly.
And land on your feet.
And land on my feet. And if I could do that, I could do that for myself. If I can do that for a government entity, I can do it for my business.
Right.
I can do it for me. And while I will admit, like the first year, 2 years, like they were hard.
Yeah.
They were really hard because I still didn't have that belief developed. And there are some days where I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna do this,
Right.
y'all. Right? I might need to go get a job. But one of my mentors said to me, she said, well, she didn't say it to me, she said it to someone else, but I heard it.
She said it to you.
She said it to me, she said it to, and I say it to my clients now. One of the things she said was like, if you had as much faith in getting that job as you do to get your next client, you wouldn't be thinking about that job.
At all.
At all.
Wow.
Because it was a bunch of coaches, right? Yeah. And so I think about that every time I even like flip my mind to say that. And if I hear like one of my clients say, I was like, no, you got to have as much faith that you can get your next client as you can get that paycheck from some entity.
Right.
What is the difference?
It's not.
There's
It's just
no
that
difference.
somebody else is, in more control of the time and what your experience is.
And how much money you gonna make too,
That's it.
right? They're in control of that too.
Yeah.
And you don't know if your company is gonna be around tomorrow.
True.
I used to work for Family Court, and
Okay.
every year, this is when I was in Fayetteville, every year they were like, budget cuts, family courts on the chopping block, family courts on the chopping block.
After a while, that trickles down.
It does,
Yeah.
and it's like, do you want to be in someone else's hands? Right? Because that's literally, you're giving your life over to someone else.
Right.
And I'm not saying that jobs are wrong because people
No.
need jobs, right? But for me, like there was this awakening that happened and I was just like, no, I'm not fulfilled doing this work.
Right.
This is not my calling. This is not my purpose. And one of the things that I've learned since like doing all of this work that I've done is that the only reason why we're here on the planet is to find our soul's purpose. Right? And if we're not living that, like, go be about it.
Yeah. Because it's crazy because on one hand, I'm like, cool. Like, yeah, I found my purpose and
Yeah.
I'm living in it. But I'm like, have I?
There's always a next level to your purpose.
Right.
There's always a next level to it, because what I'm doing today may not be what I'm doing 3 years from now, right? Because as I evolve, what I want to do might evolve.
Yeah.
Just like you, right? So the whole point is to evolve. It's not for us to stay the same.
See, I like to stay the same. Like,
Well,
all right, cool, I'm here. Let's stay here.
Yeah.
But it's not that, and I know that.
Right.
And so that's what I fight against.
You know it here.
Right.
Right. So here's another thing. Like, we know stuff up here, but until we start to do it or embody it, until it starts to become part of our life, we don't know it.
This is true.
We don't know it. Like, like I said, my mentors are amazing. And then he was like, you don't know it. If you're not practicing it, you don't know it.
If you're not practicing it, you don't know it.
Right. So if you knew how to win 10 out of 12 poker hands,
right,
but you're not implementing any of the practices
then you
to
don't
do
know
so.
it. You're just talking.
Right. You don't know it. Because if you knew it, you'd be doing it. You know that when you flip a switch, that the lights are going to come on. Right. Unless the bulb is out or you hadn't paid your electric bill.
Right.
Right. But for the most part, you know it. So we do the things that we know. We do the things we know. So if you knew that you could go to Atlanta tomorrow and put on your show and it'd be successful and be well received,
I would do it.
you'd have done it already.
Right.
You'd have done it.
This is true.
Yeah, like, seriously, like, this is the kind of stuff that be going through my head.
Right. She was like, this is what I got to get people to understand and get people
Myself
to,
too, myself included. Like, I do not, like, if I'm talking to you, I'm talking to me.
Right.
And it's not about me being better than you or any kind of, like, superiority or anything like that. Because I think that there are some coaches out there who think that they're better than people, right? Because they're along the journey a little bit further than someone.
Yeah.
But even as I say that to you, my next level might be bigger than your next level, right?
Right.
Because I'm coaching this part, but it's still the next level, and I still have the same fears. The only difference is that I'm doing it.
That's it.
I'm doing it despite the fears.
Yeah. I know people say to me all the time, like, yo, don't forget the little people. And I'll be like, but I am the little people. And that keeps me where I don't ever feel like I'm above somebody because I know something that they don't.
Right.
Because not necessarily, some people be like, oh, you know, people know more than, like, it's not necessarily more, it's just something different. Because I may know something that you don't know.
Right.
And vice versa. And
Right.
so it's not about, you know, you saying, oh, I know all this stuff and you don't know anything. It's just, yo, like, we just know different things in different situations.
And we do, but I think there's something problematic for me about, don't forget about the little people.
People, and I try not to, because it's almost like when people say, oh yeah, your little business, you know what I'm saying? Like, that little is like a word now that people take offense to, and I try not to. Because I try to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're not trying to say it in a derogatory way, even if they are. But it kind of is derogatory.
Yeah, so here's what I say about that. So don't forget about the little people. Feels like they want you to stay small with them. And I'm not making them bad or wrong for being small, right? What I'm saying is that they are requesting, in order for them to stay safe, that you have to remember them, right? So when you blow up, don't forget about us over here. Right. Right? Right. Which, if they brought value to your life, you're not going to forget them anyway, right? But it's dangerous because it almost stops people from wanting to soar or wanting to be bigger or wanting to do great things, because you have these folks back here saying, don't forget about us. Don't forget about the little people over here. And remember, because what it says to me is like, you're little people too. Right. Right? But if we are operating from a place of, I'm here to find my soul's purpose, and I'm going to do it in excellence and doing it magnificently, why am I going to stay here? Yeah. Right? Why would you do that? Like, I have a problem with people saying that they don't want more for their lives.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they're lying to themselves.
Right.
I honestly do. I was talking to one of my cousins, and we were having a conversation. I'm going to do a podcast about this because we were talking about my life. So I'm newly single.
Okay.
I was in a relationship for 16 years with my high school sweetheart. And we were talking about I'm going to be in Mexico all next month.
Right.
I'm going to be on the road with one of my girlfriends for 3 months. We're going to do tiny van situation,
Okay.
all this kind of stuff. And she's like, girl, you just living your best life, right?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I am. She's like, but I wouldn't trade with you. And I thought, let me think about this.
Right.
Let me think about what she just said. And what I realized was that I didn't want her life either. Right? She is taking care of her elderly father.
Right.
She has a 12-year-old, and she loves to be in service. She likes to do service for people.
Okay.
And the way that I do service is very different from the way she does service.
Right.
I would be bored out of my mind doing what she's doing.
Right.
Right? But she wants to go to a 9 to 5 where she can go to work and go home and be with her people and do what she does.
Yeah.
And that's what she loves to do, right?
Right.
But it's not for me. So while she was saying you're living your best life, it wasn't from a place of, oh, I wish I was doing what you were doing.
No,
it's more of this is your best life, and just as that might be her best life.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Or the capacity for her to think that that's her best life. Right?
And that's man, that's so crazy. Like you said, use the word dangerous earlier. That is so dangerous if we think we're living our best life, but we're not.
Right. And to me, a best life is not about being on a yacht and taking jets and that
Right.
kind of stuff. Although,
That could be somebody's best life. Right.
I'm not mad about I will do it, right?
Right.
Because if you think about the whole idea of a jet, and you never have to wait in the airport, you get to save so much time, right? And you can be somewhere.
And that's the biggest thing for a lot of people is the time.
Well, that's the only source that we don't have that's renewable.
Yet.
Yet. Well, okay, yet. Hey, I'm all about the possibility.
Listen.
I'm all about the possibility. But if you think about it from that standpoint, why wouldn't that be best life
Right.
stuff? But if you can't imagine having those things, you'll probably never have them, number one.
Yeah.
And then number two is sometimes best life for some people is, I get to spend time with my daughter and I don't have to be interrupted. So this is what she was telling me. She's like, I get to go to my child's games.
Right.
She's like, this time is going to go by so fast. She's going to be out of the house. She ain't going to like me no more. And I'm like,
True.
okay, I got it.
Right.
I got it. Because I have no interest in going to sit at 10 different games in 1 week.
It depends. If it's basketball, I'll go.
No. Her child does a bunch of different stuff. She's in Girl Scouts. And for me, I wouldn't want to do that. But that's why I'm not even a mother, right? Because I'm not doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
But the thing about it is, it's that fills her soul.
Yeah.
Doing this kind of stuff, this fills my soul. Talking about this and being able to think about it and then open up possibilities for other people.
Right.
That fills mine.
Yeah.
Right?
Remind me later. I need to talk to her daughter if she's in Girl Scouts.
Okay.
I have something I want.
She's not in town though. She's in Louisiana.
Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah,
She's
Zoom.
adorable too.
How old is she? Ish.
She's 11.
Okay, perfect.
she's
age.
11.
Yeah,
She's 11.
I need to talk to a Girl Scout.
Okay.
Cool. So earlier, a little while ago, you talked about how pain got you to a certain place. And you don't necessarily have to go into it, it's up to you, but do you feel like the pain that you went through was your highest threshold of pain?
I'm a black woman in America. No.
True.
No.
Facts.
Remember, we had a conversation about, I don't even know what okay is. Right? I don't even know what okay is.
Right.
Because I feel we experience a lot of different things for a lot of different reasons. And I've lost both my parents. I've lost a husband.
Yeah.
I don't know anything other than what I do know myself, right? And could I deal with something else? Probably.
Yeah.
You know? So pain, most of the pain that I've put on myself has to do with relationships. And not just the one, you know, not just a romantic relationship, but I believe that we all get caught up in, I believe that we have these patterns.
Okay.
And mine typically come from, and this is the way I was raised, right? It comes from what people think about you, right? It comes from other people's expectations, and it comes from, oh, I'm not valuable unless.
Right.
And, you know, I'm about the business of changing that for myself and for other people, because what other people think of you is none of your business, number one.
Right.
Right?
The old adage.
And then number two is like what people think of you is more of a reflection of them than it is of you. Right? So I told my friend the other day, I was like, you spot it, you got it. So don't come to me with, oh, you spot it, you got it. Like, it's a mirror.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why people show up in our lives, so we can see the mirror, so we can see ourselves in the mirror and make the decision, like, do I want this to be my life?
Right.
Do I want this to be part of how I show up in the world? And until we get to the point where we're asking ourselves these questions and then doing something about it, they're gonna keep showing up. They're gonna keep showing up.
Today, like sitting here today, do you still find yourself caring what other people think about you?
It depends on who they are. It's a higher. I'm not gonna say it's a higher level, but it's a different caliber. I don't even want to say that because that feels judgy. It's a different. It's a different kind of person.
Okay.
So in the past, my family for sure, because I grew up. I had 17 first cousins on both sides of my family.
That was fun.
It was fun. It was fun. My grandparents, their house was in the middle of their 8 children. So we all grew up together. And so, you know, everybody was in everybody's business.
Right.
And while it was an amazing childhood, because I got to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it.
Right.
Like I used to run around the whole neighborhood because it was all ours, right?
Yeah.
And we just had the best time. But it also brought like my grandmother and like the people around us, they all cared about what people thought. And because we were such a close family, everybody was in everybody's business.
Yeah.
And for me, like moving away was probably one of the best things that I did, because I didn't have to think about, like, they weren't even here. They don't know what's going on here.
Right.
Right? But then the other part of it was there's an independence that happens when you don't live in the same town that you grew up in.
I agree.
Right?
No matter where you're from.
No matter where you're from. Like,
Yeah.
if you have to leave the town that you grew up in and go make friends and go make a life, it's one of the best things that you could do for yourself. Like, I can't say I'm my ex most days, but I'm grateful that we did that.
Right.
Right? I'm grateful that we did that. And I did it twice with his ass, but that's not the point. What the point is though, like, it did, like, if we had not moved here, I would probably still be doing that same job, the first job that I got out of college. Right? I'd probably still be doing that. Miserable, you know, being in, you know, that environment.
Right.
So, you know, I think that I do care what people think, but it's people whose opinions, it's people who are qualified to give me feedback.
That makes sense.
People who are qualified to give me feedback. One of my mentors, Betty Spruill. Hey, Betty.
Hey, what up, babe?
She just moved here. She's actually from North Carolina.
Okay.
Lived in California. She's been doing this work, transformational work, for over 40 years.
Wow.
And she was in a room with other transformational leaders. And she gave a presentation, and this woman came up to her after the presentation. She's like, you know, your slides, and she was like, I'm sorry. Not qualified to give me feedback.
Right.
And I was like, yes,
That's
that.
That's where I want to be.
That,
Yeah.
right? So it's like people who give you feedback, they're going to be people who are in your field that you respect and that they're doing things that you want to do, or they have characteristics you want to have, or they have a presence in the world that you want to emulate or try to be like. And that's what Betty was like for me, right? So that's who Betty is for me. So when she said that,
Noted.
got it.
Right.
Got it. So my cousin, who has never been on camera, who has never done anything outside the box, cannot give me feedback about my ums on Facebook Live. Right? Right. Thank you. Thank you.
But
no thank you. Like, until you get on here and you know what it feels like because to me, being exposed on the web is way greater than being exposed in a room.
For real?
Yeah.
Why?
Because in a room, you can see the people. You can see the people, you can touch the people, you can get the people's reactions when you're in the room. But on the web, you have no idea what is happening back there. In that black hole of the web, you don't know.
Wow. And so I feel I really don't be caring either way, but because people be like, yo, why don't you do your own poetry? Like, are you scared to get on stage? And I'm like, no, I just wouldn't be a good performer. So I'm like, that's not what I want to do. But even like with the podcast and stuff, like this is like even more freeing than getting up at the end of a show and saying something for 8 minutes or whatever. Because here it's like, yo, I record it and then it's out there and I don't really care. Like I don't have to see the people. I don't like at Inspired, I'm speaking at the end, I gotta be like, okay, I gotta make sure that this story makes sense and that where it needs to hit, it hits.
Yeah.
Because if not, you do get that immediate feedback, and if they don't get it, or if I say it wrong, it's like, oh, that was for nothing, and then I look stupid.
Right.
Here, I can say whatever, and
But this lives on forever.
who cares? I don't care.
Right. So this lives on forever, and anybody can see it. Like anybody couldn't see everything that happened at the Inspired event, right?
Right.
Because they weren't there.
Right.
But anybody has access to this. Anyone. And so, maybe you're not looking at the feedback, right, online or whatever, but to me, like, back to what I said, my cousin who had never been online to do shit, like, you don't get to say anything to me about this, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you just have to qualify the people that you allow to give you feedback, because some people give you feedback to hurt you and to bring you down. But when someone is giving you feedback that is actually to propel you forward, like I respect that so much more than someone who just has no clue what I'm up against.
Right. Do you give unsolicited feedback?
All the damn time. And like I'm getting better at it because I'm conscious of it, and I don't want to be that kind of person, because typically people tune you out after a while, right? I mean, that was one of the problems that was in my relationship. Like I was constantly giving him feedback that he did not want, right? I can take my responsibility for what happened in it. And the fact of the matter is that the feedback was valid, but after a while, they stopped listening,
right?
Because it sounds like the same stuff they've been hearing over and over again, right? So I do give unsolicited feedback, but I'm much better at it, and I try not to give it to. I do my best not to give it to people who I might be working with.
Okay.
And I've done a whole lot better about not giving it to my family.
Got you.
Right. So.
Yeah. I do with certain people. But I've started, I guess maybe the last 6 months, trying not to, unless they ask me, like, or I'll ask them.
Do you want?
Right.
Yeah.
But again, I'm like, yo, am I listening, or are you going to want me to respond after?
That's a really great question, because I had one of my cousins, because this comes naturally to me. Coaching comes naturally to me, or telling people what to do. Coaching, consulting, like there's a thin line some days.
Yeah.
But it's really easy for me to do. And one of my cousins, she was talking about her problem. Like, don't bring me a problem if you don't want me to solve it, right? But she was talking to me about a problem, and she's like, hey, sometimes I just want you to listen. I don't need you to solve the problem for me, right? And so we get to ask, like, do you want feedback? Do you want some help with this, or do you just want me to listen?
Right.
And then the other thing that I've seen myself do is, like, make it about me, right? They'll say what the problem is, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, that happened to me, girl. This is what I did.
Yeah.
Right? And
I think we all do that.
yeah, we do.
Because we're innately self-centered. Because
yeah.
we live with ourselves. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being self-centered.
Right.
Right?
I agree.
Okay, so being self-centered means that you're actually taking care of yourself before you take care of other people, right? You got to put that flying.
Yeah.
The oxygen mask goes on you first, right? There's a reason for that. We cannot pour from an empty cup. We cannot be of service to other people if we're not whole and full and fulfilled.
Right.
We just can't. So that whole business about being selfless is, I think, part of the patriarchy. Like, we can have a whole conversation on that one.
Right.
Like, we've been, especially women, have been taught, but people of color have been taught to be of service and to not be selfish, but it's because it was in service to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because guess who they thinking about first?
Them.
It sure in the hell ain't us.
No.
You know?
Yeah. I don't always subscribe to self first. And I think I've kind of almost always been like that, even to a fault. But I would rather be on that side than be the person that just always gives and never takes care of me.
Right.
Because I know quite a few people like that, and they really, really struggle because they don't know how to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
They only know how to take care of other people who most of the time aren't even taking care of them.
Right. And what it says to me is that you don't value yourself enough.
Yeah.
And you're looking for validation outside of you.
Yeah.
Right? Our validation has to come from us first, then we get it from other people, but you can't be of service to other people because that too it's manipulating them into you getting your value.
Right.
Right? So what if, I'm selflessly giving to you, right? But I'm not taking care of me. And then you walk off and leave me, like,
Right.
I'm gonna be mad at you.
Right.
When I really should be mad at me.
Yeah.
Right?
That's crazy. Man, it's just so, like, and I just always think about, because I'm always thinking about how people think.
Well, yeah.
And we all think, there's a lot of things where we think alike, but then there's a lot of things that obviously people think completely differently on, which is why we have politics, religion, et cetera, et cetera. But just on a everyday basis and how people live their lives, they live their lives based on how they feel and think about themselves. And when people don't get to a certain place in their thinking, like they can't help themselves. And even if they're helping other people, they're not helping them to the point where they actually could be.
Most of us are recycling the same thoughts that we had last year, the year before, our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors. Most of us are recycling those thoughts. So most of us aren't even thinking. Wow. We're like on this autopilot. So if you think about, let's think about holidays and traditions, right?
Yeah.
What does your family typically have, like for Christmas? Let's just.
You're gonna have the food. You're gonna have the presents. You're gonna
Right.
Yeah, Christmas tree, all the good stuff.
Why do we do that?
Because our grandparents did it. Because their parents did it, and that's pretty much what it is.
But when we think about the pressure of the holidays.
Oh yeah, because then you're pressured into being with your family. You're pressured into eating the ham, even if you're a vegetarian. You're pressured into spending money that you don't have to buy gifts for people
that you don't even like.
That you don't like, or who didn't deserve them. You know what I'm saying?
Or who don't even want them.
Right, especially not the gift you gave them.
Exactly. Exactly. One of my cousins, she loves to give trinkets. I don't do trinkets, but she loves trinkets because she likes them. So people typically buy shit that they like, and they give it to you.
Hoping that you like it.
Instead of buying you what you like or what you want.
It's crazy because I have and I'm doing better, but I used to hate when people gave me gifts, especially women that like me.
Okay.
Bad experiences, whatever. But then I got to a point where I was like, I can't keep using that excuse, right? But I need another excuse to replace it so that I still don't receive these gifts from women.
So you didn't like the gifts, or you didn't like the women giving you the gifts?
So I didn't like the women giving me the gifts, but then after I kind of got rid of that excuse, because like that doesn't make sense. If somebody's love language is to give, then you should let them give to you.
Yeah.
So then what I did was replaced it with, I don't like the gifts that you're giving me, which was actually true.
Okay.
But then when I started getting gifts that I actually liked, I'm like, what am I gonna do now? What's my excuse? And I've literally given back stuff where like, women's like, hey, look, I got something for you. I know you were talking about this cologne you wanted, and I got it, and they open it up, and I'm like, inside, I'm like, damn, they got the cologne I want. And I don't really want to pay for it. But then I'm like, but I don't want this from this person.
So you didn't want the relationship that you thought was attached to the gift?
Right, I didn't want the relationship or the expectation of giving a gift later, or the, hey, I did this for you. Like, I don't like that at all.
But you never said that to them?
Yeah, I told them.
You said thank you for the gift? And like, so.
Well, I was like, thank you, but no thank you, and like gave it back.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I think that you made up something, right?
Right.
We make up stuff all the time. So you made up something about what the gift meant.
Right.
And I'm sure that this person who gave it to you probably had some intention to woo you or whatever it was, right? That's why they gave it to you. Or wanted you to think about them every time you wore the cologne or whatever the case might have been. But if they had just given you the gift because they wanted you to have it, how much freer would we all be if people just gave because they want to give,
Right.
but not from a place of expectation or something in return?
A lot freer.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, we would all just be a whole lot better if we were just giving for the sake of giving instead of giving because we want something in return.
And that's what I had to learn too, is that everybody doesn't want something in return.
Right. But that's more of a reflection of how we show up.
Yeah.
Right? So if we give to people so we can manipulate and so we can control and so we can, hey, remember I did X for you, right?
Right.
If that's typically our come from, that's typically what we're going to think other people's come from is.
Right.
Right?
And I used to, and this has been a while ago, but I didn't give anybody anything. Because if I did, then that was my thinking. Like, I'm giving you something, and
You better give back to me.
right.
Right?
I'm glad, and I broke out of that. I still don't feel comfortable people giving me stuff, but I have been like, I'll accept things now, and I'll be like, thank you.
And that's it.
Right, and that's
Thank
it.
you, and that's it. One of the best things I think that people can do is like say, if like for you, like if you're not in a relationship, you don't want to be in a relationship,
Right.
but you want to date. These are the boundaries. Like this is what it is. Like I am, like I said, I'm newly single, but if someone said to me, hey, I'm dating other people, we're not going to, like, I'm not looking for anything serious.
Right.
Being honest up front is probably the best gift I think that men especially could give to women. And then for the women out there, like when a man tells you something like that.
And that's the thing.
When a man tells you that, don't try to change him. He's telling you, like he is telling you the truth.
Right.
And for me, it reminds me of this, like we're still trying to manipulate both ways.
Yeah.
Right? So if women want to be in a relationship with somebody who's not dating everybody else, then go find them. Don't waste your time with somebody who is not there.
Right.
Right? And vice versa. Like men too. Like if you know that women want to really be in a relationship, don't mess with them. Like leave them alone.
It does go both ways.
Right? It goes both ways. So I just feel like it goes back to the whole thing about giving the gifts. Right? Because you're a gift. I'm a gift. Right? So if we're giving ourselves and giving gifts to people, like not having expectations in return, or laying it out like what you want from the get-go, and letting people know and being honest about it, like it just will make things so
makes
much
it
easier.
easier. we listen, as humans, we tend to make things very hard
We
for ourselves
do.
all the time.
Simple is so much better, and we just layer on all kinds of stuff because it's what we've done. Right. But when we can strip down to like what it is that we really want and being focused on that, that's the other thing. Like we focus on so many different things in a given day.
Yeah.
Right.
I think how many thoughts they said? We said we had like tens of
yeah,
thousands
yeah.
of thoughts every single day.
Right. And most of us are not focused on the thing that we say that we want. Right. So here's one thing that I'm just gonna lead the audience with because I think it's super important. If the thought that you're thinking is not a thought that's gonna get you to where you say you want to be, why are you thinking it?
And that speaks to what you were saying a little while ago. Most of us aren't thinking, we're just recycling.
We're recycling stuff. So for an example, let's just say Christmas, I'm gonna be broke January, right? I used to, when I worked for the state here, they gave us our January check like the week before Christmas.
Oh yeah, of course.
So you had like 40 days of one check, right? So people would go and spend it, and come the end of January, you're dying, right? So I'm saying all that to say is that if we keep doing the same things over and over and over again, right? We obviously have the same thought pattern.
Right.
So for people to say, oh, I'm going to be broke at the end of January, like they're already claiming that.
Yeah.
Instead
and
of saying,
not gonna do anything about it.
Right. Instead of saying, you know what, this year I'm not buying Christmas presents, or I'm not spending this check until January, or I'm not going to, whatever the case, I'm going to use this and pay my January bills. Right. Instead of spending on Christmas gifts, that's when the transformation happens, right? When we stop thinking those same thoughts and we say, you know what, being broke between January 15th and February 1st is no longer serving me. Yeah. I don't like that stress. I don't like going to try to buy gifts for this person and that person. They don't even use the stuff that I bought. Right? It's just a way of like starting to look at life and looking at ourselves in a way that that says if it's not for me, then it's not for me. Like I'm not gonna think the thoughts that's not gonna take me where I want to go.
Yeah, I had a cousin reach out to me, a younger cousin, I don't know, a few years ago. It was Christmas time. And she was like, hey, my family calls me CJ. She was like, CJ, you know, I need to borrow some money. And I'm like, bet, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you need money? Because she's never asked me to borrow money before. I'm like, what do you need money for? You good?
Yeah.
And she was like, yo, I got my kids' Christmas presents on layaway, and I don't have the rest of the money to get the Christmas presents off, and their dad was supposed to get it, and now he's saying that he's not going to, And so I was just like, man, I was like, okay, you need, you know, $150, $200, whatever it was. And I was like, I have it. I was like, but I feel like if I give it to you, it's gonna do more harm than it would if I did give it to you. And she was like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, yo, like, because if you don't have enough money to get those off, take care of your bills, et cetera, I was like, what's gonna make you change that behavior so that next year you're not even in a situation where you need to borrow money to make sure that the family's good? I was like, I would rather, and I was like, and I always hate it if I need to borrow money and then somebody tell me what to do with the money that I'm borrowing.
Yes, because it's not yours anymore. Once you give it to someone, it does not belong to you anymore.
And so I told her, I was like, yo, I would rather give you the money, but you use that money for some money management tools or use that money for da-da-da-da. I was like, but I don't want to tell you what to do with the money, so I'm not going to give it to you.
Ooh, that was hard, huh?
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I had gotten to a point where it was just, you know, whatever. Because you came to me and asked me for money.
Yeah.
But I told her, I was like, it's not that I don't want your kids to have their Christmas presents or for you to be able to pay whatever bill that, you know, move the money, whatever. But I just think it's going to do more harm in the long run. I was like, now what I will do is I got a couple books I can send you. I got Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I got some things that you can start out with so that you get into a certain situation where this isn't a thing. I was like, because it's really not about the money. It's about where your mindset is behind what you need the money for.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I didn't give her the money. Didn't feel bad about it either, but I also didn't want to give it to her and be then having all these stipulations. Because then if I see on Facebook the kids got all their toys and stuff, I'll be like,
Yeah, that's interesting because, child support is one of those things where, men will be like, hey, she's spending all, well, no, it's not your money anymore.
Right,
Like, once you've given it to her, it is not yours, right?
Right.
But the other thing about that is I remember my parents saying, oh, I want to give my kids what I didn't have, right? Instead of teach me the things that you didn't know.
Yeah.
Right? Who cares? I remember, yes, I got a Barbie house, when I was 9 or whatever, but what does that have to do with life? What does that have to do with me becoming someone that is, contributing to life for other people?
Yeah.
I think that we concentrate on these gifts and stuff because that's what our society tells us is a good Christmas, or
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Good Christmas.
So they
That's
can
a
get
whole
rich.
poem.
So they can get rich on it. And
Right.
I mean, in Christmas, let's not even get started on what that even actually is, right? But even Valentine's Day, all of those commercial holiday that we have, every commercial holiday we have, it's not about the actual thing that it's supposed to be about.
Ever.
Right? It's about this, you got to go out to dinner, you got to go and spend this kind of money, you got to spend time with it. We shouldn't have to have a holiday to want to spend time with our people.
And there's pressure behind it.
A lot of
Immense
pressure. A lot of pressure. But the point is we don't even remember the gifts.
Nope.
We don't even remember the gift. My grandmother, like I said, she had 17 grandchildren. So the girls got either Thin Mints or chocolate covered cherries, a box from the dollar store, and the boys got socks, right? That's what we got. Those were our gifts. I remember that more than I remember what year I got the Barbie house, right? Because it was, because I liked them, but because it was more of this thing that she did for us. Yeah. But what I got from my grandmother is I know how to cook, right? I know how to manage a household. Those are the gifts that I got from her. Right. And when we think about that kind of stuff, what are the gifts that our people give to us? And teach us the things that you did not know how to do or how to be better humans instead of buying all this crap that means nothing. The PS5, I don't even know what number we're on, 5 now?
I think we're on 5, coming up on 6.
Yeah, which is probably sold out and,
Always.
But, and I'm not saying that they're not fun because they are fun. But the point is if you can't afford to get that stuff, what are you really saying? The value of yourself or the value of your time is worth less than these gifts.
Yeah. I think I know my mom. That's one thing that I learned from her. My mom, obviously, she's the one to have us good Christmases and all that good stuff. But when she couldn't, she didn't. Now, I don't know how she felt. I probably should ask her, how did you feel in those moments? But she didn't overextend herself in that way to make sure we had 1 million presents under a tree. Mm-hmm. And so then when I got older and I had my son, I wasn't tripping on that stuff. I remember my son's mother one Christmas, I'm talking about, she was in tears, oh my God, we don't have no money to get. I said nothing. And I'm like, but we got money to get him Pampers. We got money to get him milk.
So wait, he was still in Pampers and she was worried about what to get him for Christmas?
I was like, he's not even going to remember this Christmas. He's literally I think at the time he was either turning 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I'm like, I promise you, when he grows up, he's not even going to remember when he was 3 years old.
Right.
And I'm like, even if he could, kids don't care. I remember he came out one Christmas. He's probably 6 or 7 by this time. And me and one of my friends were staying together, and I'm like, I'm going to test my son. And I had some gifts for him, but I'm going to test him. And so, the long roll for the wrapping paper? Mm-hmm. All the wrapping paper was off, and so I just had the thing. And so I took it to him, hey, look, set him down, Zay, this year I really didn't have a whole lot of money, so couldn't really get any Christmas gifts. I was like, but I got you one thing, and, hopefully you'll like it. And so I pull it out, and it's just the roll.
Yeah.
And so he's looking, and he takes it. He's like, now I have a sword to fight my pa with. Talking about his granddaddy. And he just starts doing the whole Star Wars thing. And my homeboy looks at it, we bust out laughing. He's like, he passed the test.
Yeah.
And so I was like, nah, bro, I got some gifts for you. But kids really, they don't care until they know they're supposed to care.
Right. They don't care until some other kid tells them that they have to care, right? And they
Right.
typically don't even want the things that they want unless some other kid is getting it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I know my godchild, the one who's 11, she wants this, she wants that. And I'm like, girl, you need to stop going to that school because I know that's where you're getting it from.
And then they get it and most of the time don't even use it long.
Right.
Yeah, it's just crazy how our mindsets, how much we have to unlearn as we
And
grow
that's
up.
and that's what we have to do. Like when we come out of your mother, right? When we get out, we
Like
come
when
out
you're
mom.
born.
When you're born, that's when we're at our maximum potential, right? But then we get all of these things that our parents learned, our grandparents learned, the people around us. Like that's when people start pouring all the crap into us, right? And as adults, we have to be conscious to unlearn that stuff.
Your maximum potential when you're born.
You are.
That's crazy. I never thought.
Because
about
if you think about it, right, as children, we learn a new language. We literally learn how to walk, right? Walk, ride bikes. And most of the time, we are totally fearless. We're totally fearless when it comes to walking, and we're totally fearless when it comes to learning how to talk. Now, we try to go learn another language right now.
Oh, God.
Right? We won't even get started because we're like, oh, we're not going to be able to do that.
And my plight.
We won't be able to do that.
Wow. So how can we get back to our maximum potential?
You got to have the childlike wonder. You got to be curious. You got to question stuff. Like I tell my clients all the time, like question anything that I say, I want you to question it. Not like from this place of being an asshole, right? But question it like for yourself. Like, does this resonate with me? Yeah. And if it's not resonating with me, is it not resonating because I'm fearful of what she said might be true? Or is it because I really don't believe that? Right? And then, just being curious about life. Like,
check that out.
Yeah, what kind of paint is on that painting?
Right.
I wonder what they were thinking about when they did this. Like, I love abstract art, right?
Right, I do too.
So I'd be totally cool with all of these in my house. But something that's more traditional, like, why don't I like that? Right? Why don't I like that?
Exploring that.
And exploring that. And exploring why I don't want a rose in my house, right? Or a traditional vase or whatever the thing might be.
Right, because there's something behind it.
There's something behind it, and not that it really matters in the
Right.
big scheme of things, but it's something for me to know about myself, right? To know, no, please don't buy me traditional stuff,
Right.
because it's not what I like to do. Yeah. And also, what makes other people want to do traditional things, right? Are they loving traditional things because they love traditional things, or because they think that's what they're supposed to be doing?
Right. And then it's crazy because to some people, especially that create abstract art, that's traditional to them.
Exactly.
Right.
Right? Like, because for both of us, I would say we both think outside the box,
Right.
right? So for us, to be in a box would be, that doesn't even make sense, right?
Which goes back to earlier how I think outside the box, but then I'm still in a box.
We're
And it's
all
like,
still in a box.
Right.
We all have our boxes.
But I can get out of the box that I'm in.
You can get out of a box that somebody else created, but you're not out of your box, right?
Right.
We can all get out of a box that somebody else created, but when it comes to getting out of the box that we create for ourselves, like I'm supposed to be doing whatever, or I should. No.
Yeah, that's tough. This has been good. I think people are gonna get a lot of nuggets from this one that hopefully they'll use in their everyday lives and as they're navigating.
It's hard. Look, this is hard work. Undoing all that shit that we've learned. I mean, And depending on how old you are, like, it's
I'm
even worse.
38.
Right. And not just you, like everybody,
Yeah.
like depending on where they are. Like if we were doing this, I really wish that transformational work was happening with children. Like I have one of my best friends, she does it with kids, but they're older.
Right.
But if we're doing this kind of work in elementary school and in kindergarten, instead of teaching them how to recite stuff that, like,
Yeah, just
facts
to
that don't even
regurgitate
matter,
everything.
right? Like learning how to think, learning how to think for yourself, right? We teach them to think like us,
Right.
right? So if we would just do that, we would be in a different place.
How do we, who is doing that?
Who's doing what?
Who is teaching kids to think?
Probably charter schools, ones that probably have that mindful meditation and things like that going on in elementary schools, but it's not happening in mass. It's not happening where it needs to happen,
Yeah.
right? Because those are the people who are hurting the most. The people who need this are the people that are hurting the most.
I'm gonna look into people who are teaching kids to think.
Yeah, to think and meditation, because meditation is, like, I think of prayer and meditation as like two different sides of the coin. Like prayer is where you're asking for what you want, but when
Right.
you meditate, you get the answer on how to go and get it, right?
I've never heard it put that way.
Yeah, most people, like, one is you talk, the other one is you listen. And
That
most
makes
of us
sense.
don't listen. We just keep on
Just
talking.
keep talking.
Just keep talking. And I'm
Man.
guilty of that, right? I'm
We-
guilty of it
yeah,
too.
I'm sure we all are in some capacity.
Yeah,
Huh. Prayers when you talk, meditation when you listen.
yeah. And then you go do.
And that's the part that I'm good at doing.
Are you?
I'm good at doing.
Yeah.
Listening, it depends on if I want to listen.
Yeah. Depends on who's talking.
Depends
Yeah,
on who's
yeah.
talking. But doing, I'm good at doing. If it's something I want to do. If it's something I want to do, like this, I'm gonna do it.
So the do, be, have,
do,
right?
have, yeah.
So most people believe that if they do certain things, then they'll become a certain person.
Right.
So they're gonna have the things that they say they want to have.
Right.
But really, it's you got to be that person first
Yep.
to do that does the things that kind of being is, so you can have the stuff that you say that you want.
I had a guy some years ago. God, I was in my early 20s. I was maybe 22, 23. I was in Amway. And one of my mentors in Amway at the time, he was a professional turnaround consultant for 500 Fortune companies.
Turn around.
Yeah, so he'd go in and grab companies that were almost at the brink of bankruptcy, and he would flip their whole company and put them in the green and all that good stuff. And so he was one of only 500, I think, at the time in the nation. This is like years and years ago.
Yeah.
And so I remember he sat me down and explained that to me when I was 20-some years old. And I remember thinking as I started getting older, like, because he wound up passing several years ago, but I remember thinking, like, for me to have that information at such a pivotal time, right after I got out of college, and start understanding some of those things early on, versus if that had been the first time I heard that today, like, how much would I need to then learn off of that
Right. Right.
to get where I'm going? And
Right.
so I'm always cognizant of going back in my mind to remember things that I learned or that I unlearned already, so that I don't have to learn or unlearn those things again.
Yeah, and I mean, and what really helps me is, like, we're human beings, so we need to be first, right? We're not human doings. We're human beings, and most of us don't know how to be.
Wow.
Most of us cannot, like, folks who had trouble during the pandemic,
Yeah.
right?
And I did, and I was chilling, yeah.
Because they don't know how to be with themselves. They don't know how to be with other people.
Right.
They only know how to do or have.
I guess I know how to be too then.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's because someone
yeah.
instilled that
Yeah.
in me, and I realized, like, that was actually kind of what I liked like to be anyway?
Well, if you're introverted, like it's really easy to go within and be. Extroverts, they don't.
Yeah, and I'm
They
kind of
yeah
middle.
yeah. I'm an ambivert too, but most people like they're on both sides of the spectrum or opposite sides of the spectrum.
Right.
If you're an extrovert, you had a tough time. Like my niece had a hard time
Yeah,
because she just can't sit still.
Yeah.
She, it's just not. She can't. And she
It's-
like to be around people.
I used to would not date extroverts because they always want to do something,
Yeah.
and I'd rather chill.
Yeah.
Like, even though, we're out this morning and we're doing this, like, we chilling.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm cool with that.
Right, because we're chilling, because we're talking about stuff that actually matters.
True.
I think that's different too. Like when you can go deep with people and have like meaningful conversations, it's very different than hanging out in, because even if we had 10 other or 15 other people in here having a party over there, the noise might have distracted us, but because of what we're talking about, we'd have still been fine.
Right.
Right, because our introspectiveness was getting fed.
Yeah.
But if we had to go and talk to those other 10, 15 people about the weather and the game and the this and the that, like we'd have been like, okay, time to go home.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But, and that's the other thing, like you got to know yourself really well.
Yeah.
And people don't know themselves well. They just,
And it's crazy because I'm like, yo, like, I always tell, especially one of my friends I talk to almost every day, I'm like, yo, if I don't know nothing else, I know me.
yeah.
And when I think about how people don't know themselves well, I'm like, why not? Like, we live with ourselves every single day, every single hour, every single minute. And I keep trying to pinpoint, because there's a reason why we know ourselves and there's a reason why people don't. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to pinpoint, like, why do I feel like I know me? Why am I so in tune with me? So then that maybe I can unlock that for somebody else.
I would say trauma for some people. They literally had to be someone else to deal with the trauma that they had to deal with, right? And then I think that it just becomes a habit. Those are just my thoughts. I'm not a psychologist. I just play
Right.
one on TV.
Listen, I'm always, and it's fun to have these sit downs, these interviews or conversations, whatever people want to call them, because I'm always able to hear things that I haven't heard, and then later I can really go back and process. And it's crazy because I watch the videos over and I see myself processing it on camera, but I go and I'll sit with it and be like, okay, this person said this. I never thought about this before. I never heard this before, or hadn't figured this out. And so now, what do I do with this new information that I have?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, I guess that's one of the selfish reasons why I do this, which is, my self-centeredness that actually is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But but you're also sharing it. So
True.
it's not like, but people have to also want it.
They
You
do.
want it, right? So you can put it out there.
Right.
And the people that it's for, they're going to get
They're
it.
going to get it, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so as we close,
Yes.
in the beginning I asked you, who do you think you are? Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to ask you, who do you think you will be?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
I'm going to answer it the same way, right? But I feel like because of the work that I've done and the work that I am committed to continue to do, that I'll be able to have more of an impact on more people than I've had in the past. So still nothing and everything,
Yeah.
but really helping others get to their everything.
Helping others get to their everything.
Yeah.
That's good. What I'm going to do, I'll put links to all of your stuff
Cool.
when I post on Instagram, and also when the full thing goes up on YouTube.
Okay.
So anybody who's out there that
You
is
know,
looking-
in the black hole.
right, is looking to get to their everything, hopefully there'll be some people that'll reach out.
Of course there will be.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for this.
Nah, I appreciate you coming on. This was good.
Yeah. Awesome. Yay.
All right.